Well, this is the last time I get to teach you and speak into you. And I kind of want to change tack a little bit from the theme of the conference and put another word that has been on my heart recently. And it really came out of my recent journey and travel. Many of you that may be Twitter literate, is there any fellow twits in here that are on Twitter? Okay. I am a Twitter girl. I am always twitting on Twitter. Some of you are like, what in the world is she talking about? You need to join the 21st century. There's a world called Twitter where we just, we share. I always say if you want something deep and spiritual, follow like Lisa Bevere. If you want to see the latest shoes I purchased or the fact that the kids are driving me nuts or I've lost my luggage, you're probably best following me. Because I have deep moments, but most of the time it's just manic moments. And girls just like to share things. And so we share life. And on Twitter, you would have seen, if you follow me, that I've had a time recently of a lot of travel, more than normal. And much of that travel was caused because of the volcanic ash. And how many got stranded by the ash cloud? Anyone in here? I was amongst those that got stranded. We'd been in America for 2.5 weeks. I'd been speaking. My family were with me doing several conferences. And on the day we were due to come home, we got the message that the cloud had gone up and we weren't going to be getting on any plane anytime soon. So the date that they gave us for coming back to the UK was 12 days later. Well, 12 days later was the day I was due to come back to America. So there was no point me going home. So we cried and waved my children and husband goodbye as they went home, and I had to stay on and did some conferences out there. And then it went on for another week, and then I was out there. It was a culmination of nearly 7 weeks being away. By the time I got on the final flight, I was desperate to get home. Everybody ever been desperate to get home? I mean, you're blessed to be where you are, but you just I just want to see my children. I want to sit on my own settee. I do not want to live out of a suitcase for another day. I was kind of there. And as we got on the plane, the pilot said, well, the ash has moved again. I'm like, I cannot believe it. Please, Jesus, no. And the pilot said this. He said, we will get you where we're going. We will get you back to the UK today. But because of the ash cloud, we're going to have to go the long way round. And when he said that, something inside my spirit it clicked. And I went home off that plane journey and I began to think and talk to God about that expression. Sometimes we have to go the long way round. And I want to talk to you this morning about why is it that some people get an instant and others have to go the long way around. Why is it that some of you here this morning are celebrating and rejoicing often over what other people that are in here this morning are crying out for and have been crying out for sometimes months or years? Why is it that sometimes some things are instant in God and for others we have to go the long way around? And I want to speak to you about the long way round this morning. I want to encourage you, if you're on the long way round, I want to put faith back in you. If you feel, God, I am on a long way round with this thing that's in my heart to see happen, or with this thing that I'm crying out to you for. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But that's just the way it is sometimes. The pilot called the Holy Spirit, God sometimes says over the tannoy of your life, girl, you will get there. But for you, you're going the long way round. He didn't say you won't get there. He just said for you, you're going the long way round. And I reread many stories in my Bible. And as I reread stories I was familiar with, I became aware all over again of some people that were called to go into battle for God. And they just literally showed up. I mean, they showed up. And God goes, that's great, glad you showed up, smash your jars. When you smash your jars, everyone's going to freak out. They're all going to be confused. They're all going to be run. You're going to take home all the plunder, no fighting involved. I'm like, Lord, that would have been a great day. You didn't even have to get dirty. You just smashed a jar. But then I read about Joshua, who's called to go and fight on the front line. And I read that the battle goes so long that he has to say, God, could you hold the sun still? He didn't even know what he was saying. Could you hold the sun still? We just need more hours of daylight. I'll keep fighting, but I can't fight in the dark. Could you just keep it going for me a little bit longer? I don't know why some smash a jar and never get their clothes dirty. And I don't know why some have to ask for more hours of light to keep their weary arm fighting longer to win the victory. But God was the God of both. I don't know why some people in the crowd could shout, Jesus! And he would say, get up. And why others maybe shouted Jesus on many occasions, maybe cried to him many occasions, but never felt anyone heard them or helped them. I don't know why some people it was a touch, but other people it was a crawl on bended knees, as a woman who'd been ill for 12 years had to drag her body through a crowd, had to crawl through people's feet, had to pull down on the back of his garment in the hope, knowing that one day she'd get a miracle, but for her, it came the long way round. All I know is that God asks us to trust him. God asks us sometimes to just let God be God. See, often what we want is we want the instant, don't we? We want the instant. I just did some work in our garden, and I instructed the people that were helping me, I have no time to wait for flowers to grow. I have people coming for dinner. I need instant flowers. They're like, well, I'm not sure you can get such a thing. I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way. And we found some garden center where you could go and they had more plants that were in bloom. I'm like, I want the instant bloom kind. He's like, girl, there is a process involved in getting them to this place. But we want instant. We want the flowers blooming now. We want it to happen now because we've got a schedule. But sometimes you have to wait. And you have to water, and you have to weed, and you have to wait, and you have to water, and you have to weed. But often we just want God to do something for us instantly. We want God to present into our lives things that are an instant miracle. I want to show you two contrasting miracles this morning. They both had the same end result. They both had the same prize at the end of them. But one was instant, and one was long way round. In Luke 7, verse 11, it records an instant miracle. It actually doesn't even give us the full context here. And you know, if you read between the lines, this lady actually wasn't really, it doesn't say she was even requesting or asking or demanding a miracle, because she'd lost her son. The funeral had been planned. They were carrying his body in a coffin through town. It was a done deal. But it says in verse 11 that Jesus was going through that town that day, and there was the crowd that were there with the lady, and they were approaching the town gate, and they saw that the dead person was being carried out. It was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and the crowd were with her. And when the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her, and he said, don't cry. And then he went up and he touched the coffin, and those carrying it stood still. And he said, young man, I say to you, get up. And the dead man sat up, began to talk to his mom, talked to Jesus, and he gave the boy back to his mother. Jesus is just passing by. It wasn't planned stop. It wasn't someone that had requested an appointment with him. He's just passing by, and he says his heart went out to this woman. And he says, how went out to this woman? He touched the coffin. The body sits upright, says, hi, Mom, how you doing? Freaks everybody out. And all of a sudden, instantly, she gets her prize. This is a £50 note. All of a sudden, she gets an instant miracle. He takes the lid off the coffin. He takes the lid off. And instantly, she's met with a miracle. God can do that. God's the God of the suddenly. God's the God of the instant. God can do that. If God's heart goes out and he so decides, God can do that. We get excited about that God. We love that God. We want to serve that God. But turn with me to John 11. And I'm going to show you someone that had to go the long way around for the same £50 result. I'm going to read it from the Message Bible because it tells the story really well in this analogy that I want to show you in this session. This is the story of Lazarus. Now, the first miracle happened to a stranger. You would think God would deal totally differently with his friend. I mean, talk about being instant for a stranger. God, you must be super instant for those that you know, those that you love. That's kind of what was going on here too. But it says in John 11 in the Message, it says, a man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. This was the same Mary who massaged the Lord's feet with aromatic oils. Okay, they were close. You don't massage someone's feet unless you're close. And wipe them with her hair. That's super close. I mean, these were not strangers. These were a family that had opened their home, opened their hearts to Jesus and become his friend. They were not people in a crowd. They were not faces that he didn't recognize. These were his mates. These were his friends. This was a place he could go and be with them. He would sit and recline at the table with Lazarus and they would chat and they would hang out. Jesus had friends. And so Lazarus was the one that was sick, and so it was their brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sisters of Lazarus sent word to their friend Jesus, and listen to what they say. Master, the one that you love so very much is very sick. Some of you come, and you say, Master, the one that's opened her life to you, served you, loves you, the good girl, hello, that gives and tithes and involves and helps others, the good girl. The one you love so very, very much is sick. When Jesus got the message, he said, this sickness is not fatal, but it will become an occasion to show God's glory by glorifying God's Son. God always has another plan. He sends word that says, this is not fatal, but it's going to become an occasion. God is looking for lives that are willing for him to use them to make it an occasion. So Jesus loved Martha and her sister, and he loved Lazarus. This is the Message Bible. Check this next line out. But oddly, I love that. But oddly, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. Jesus, what are you thinking? I mean, these are your friends, the ones you love, that massage your feet, rub it dry with their hair. You have tea there. They're good people. They're sick. They need you to go right now. They need an instant miracle. He's not well. But oddly, Jesus goes, it's not going to be fatal. It is going to be an occasion. So I'm going to stay where I am for 2 more days. What would you feel? What would your reaction be? So he stayed where he was for 2 more days. After the 2 days, he says to his disciples, don't you love the disciples? God bless the disciples. Okay, boys, let's go back to Judea. And they said, Rabbi, you can't do that. I love that they tell Jesus what he can and can't do. You can't do that. The Jews are out to kill you, and you're going back, because where they were was dangerous. Where Lazarus was, they were not the most popular people to go to town. The Jews did not like what Jesus was doing, and they had lots of issues. And so they're like, we're out of there, phew, why are we going back? And so Jesus replies, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in daylight doesn't stumble, because there's plenty of light from the sun, but walking at night, he might very well stumble because he can't see where he's going. And he said these things, and then he announced, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. See God's perspective. You got to get this. God's got a perspective going on that we don't. And if we could see his perspective, then we would understand sometimes the long way around. He says, he's asleep, so I'm going to go wake him up. The disciples said, Master, love the boys. If he's gone to sleep, he'll get a really good rest, and he'll wake up feeling just fine. Jesus was talking about death, while his disciples thought he was talking about taking a nap. And then Jesus became explicit. Lazarus has died. And let's check this out. And I am glad he has for your sakes. I'm glad that I was not there, because you're about to be given new grounds for believing. Now let's go. Jesus, at that moment, began a journey which was the long way round. He did not go instantly. If he'd have gone instantly, Lazarus would have still been alive. He didn't go instantly. He oddly waited until the case got worse. Now he knows that Lazarus has passed away. Now he decides that's a good time to go to Lazarus. But what you need to understand is that where some people get an instant, God said this will become an occasion. And when God decides something's going to become an occasion, he's not just looking at what he's going to do for Lazarus, because he just told you Lazarus is having a sleep. Lazarus don't even know that I'm late. Lazarus don't care. So I'm not bothered about Lazarus right now. That'll get sorted in a minute. That's going to be at the end. You'll get to Lazarus. But I'm after, can I use Lazarus as a reason to bring some other people in on the miracle? Can I use your life and the thing you're praying for as a way to reach a lot of other people? So God decides this one's not going to be lift the box lid. There's your £50. This one's going to be pass the parcel. This miracle is going to come long way round. So now, on the way to Lazarus, God decides to make it an occasion to teach the disciples. Now, not only is Lazarus going to get helped, but Jesus is stopping and he's helping the boys. He's saying, boys, I'm glad for your sake that I wasn't there 2 days ago, because now not only are we going to help Lazarus, but you're going to get something along the way. This is turning into a little outing. It's turning into an occasion. And the boys get to take a layer off of their understanding. They get to take a layer off of their understanding of the power of God. They get to take a layer off in their believing and seeing what Jesus is capable of. And they gain something on the long way round. Now the disciples are learning. Now the disciples are benefiting. You don't get that in the instant, but you do get it on the long way round. So now other people are involved in this occasion that Jesus is doing in Lazarus' life. Are you willing to let him go the long way round so that other people can be picked up along the way, enlarged along the way, educated along the way, taught something along the way? When we got stranded by the ash cloud in America, I had 12 days, where really it was 12 days I was not planning to be there. But those 12 days I decided were going to be redeemed to do something, to be something, to scoop some more people in. I went to churches I wasn't planning to be at. I planned ideas to do with my future and my destiny and my family's. I incubated stuff. I decided if I'm going the long way round, I'm going to get everything out of it I can. So now the disciples took in that one away. Oh, no, it's not about me right now, but we just learned something. Jesus just gave us something. We just took a layer off the parcel on its way to the person who needs it most. So then they carry on. He says, let's go. That's when Thomas, I love Thomas, he's always got to have a little say. That's when Thomas, the one called the twin, said to his companions, come along, boys. We might as well die with him. Don't you love Thomas? Some of you are thinking, how did I end up with that person in my ministry staff? You should be glad you didn't get Thomas. Like, let's go do this in the church. And he would be the one going, let's go with the pastor and all die with her as she does this idea. I mean, don't you love Jesus? How he embraced even the Thomas. There's hope for us all. So Thomas's positivity is mowing them along on the journey. It says when Jesus finally got there, he found Lazarus was already 4 days dead. Bethany was near Jerusalem, only a couple of miles away, and many of the Jews were visiting Martha and Mary, sympathizing with them over their brother. See, now a crowd's gathering. Now there's more people gathering. Jesus knows what he's doing. Nobody gathers if you're sick and in the next few hours you're made well. But now they're gathering because people knew these were supposed to be Jesus' friends. People that were critical, they were gathering too. So when Jesus finally got there, the crowd had gathered and he was 4 miles away, and people were sympathizing with Mary and Martha over their brother. And it says Martha heard that Jesus was coming, and so she went out to meet him while Mary remained in the house. Now, I want to show you another layer that Jesus is after. He's helped with the disciples and their believing, but now he comes to, I'm going to get to Lazarus in a minute, but first of all, I'm going to help Martha and Mary. Here's 2 girls that are very different in their approach to life. Martha is the oldest sister. Anyone in here the oldest sister? I am a Martha. I am the eldest sister. And all of you know that the eldest sister is given the blessing of being the one that has to do most stuff around here. Is that not right? I mean, you're the one that pulls everyone together, reminds everybody it's mum's birthday, reminds everybody, the one that helps out. You're the one that babysat all your life. We're never getting paid for it. Hello? You're the one that, went without because the babies were here. You're the organizer. You're the organizer. You just organize. That was Martha. Meanwhile, Mary, we'll get to her in a moment, she's having an emotional moment because Mary's not the oldest sister, okay? Martha's do organization, Mary's do tears. And so Martha is organizing. Martha is organizing. And so Martha clearly is disappointed that they didn't get an instant miracle. But when you're a Martha spirit person, with your disappointment, what you do is you try to take control. Well, God didn't come through, so I'm just going to take control. Well, it didn't work out the way it should have done, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take control of this situation all by my little self. And God understood that, Martha, you know me, but you don't really know me. So on the way to Lazarus, Martha comes running out. It says, Martha said, Master, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Even now, I know that whatever you ask God, he will give you. She's sounding all together. And Jesus said, your brother will be raised up. And Martha replies, I love how she's just, yeah. I know he'll be raised up in the resurrection at the end of time. She's like, yes, Jesus, I've got it under control. You didn't show up. Now you're trying to cover your tracks. You're telling me he'll be raised up one day. That's all great. That's not exactly what we asked for, but we'll deal with it. We're disappointed, but I'm glad you're finally here. She's taking control. And then he says to her, you don't have to wait for the end. I am right now, resurrection and life. The one who believes in me, even though he or she dies, will live. And everyone who lives believing in me does not ultimately die at all. Check out Jesus. Martha, do you believe this? See, sometimes the long way round is really about you finding out what you really believe. He's like, Lazarus is easy. Lazarus is just somebody asleep. They've got to wake up. Lazarus is easy. But what goes on in your head is a lot more complicated. And God's saying, on the long way round, I want to speak to you, Martha, about your control issues. I want to speak to you about your believing. I mean, do you really believe me or not? Do you really believe that I have resurrection and life in me or not? And God is asking some of you on your long way round, girl, have you started to tidy me up, take control, organize me, cover your disappointment, or do you really believe me? God begins to take a layer off, another layer off the parcel on the way. He's not even got to Lazarus yet. He's not even got near the house yet. He's not even got there, but he's taking a layer off. Yes, Master, she says, all along that I have believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who comes into this world. And after saying this, she went to get another person that the layers were about, Mary. Martha learns a lesson. Martha has a conversation. And maybe you've come to Cherish and God wants a conversation with you because you're a Martha. You didn't have that situation work out how you thought it should. And God's going, do you trust me that I have a bigger plan? Will you let me use this for an occasion? And Martha begins to learn a lesson and she tucks it away. She goes, yes, Lord, I do believe you. And she tucks away her little lesson. And then it says she goes, I love that, she was a bringer, she was an includer. She goes to get Mary. She wants her to learn something too. She wants her to be in on it too. And she gets to Mary. I love Mary. God bless the Marys in here. After saying this, she went to her sister Mary and she whispered in her ear, "The teacher is here and he's asking for you." The moment that Mary heard this, she jumped up and she ran out to him with snot flying and tears flailing because she's Mary and she's been on the floor in heaps. She couldn't bring herself to go meet Jesus and take control because she's so emotional. And now the Mary gets up, "Oh, Jesus, you let me down. I'm so disappointed. Oh, you could have come through for me." Maybe you're a Mary in here. You just cry all the time. Ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. "Oh, I believe it for my miracle. I still believe it." Oh. So snot flying, emotions welled up. She runs to Jesus. Says the moment she heard him, she jumped up, she ran out. Jesus had not yet entered the town. He was still at the place where Martha had met him. When her sympathizing Jewish friends saw Mary run off, they followed her, thinking she was on her way to the tomb to weep there. I love that. Oh, we're changing weeping positions. Off we go. It wasn't that she was off there to do anything else other than weep. Because that's what Marys do. They weep here, and then they weep there. And then they find a new person, and they weep with them too. And I am not downplaying the emotion, but sometimes your emotions outrule God moving. Sometimes your emotions take you to a place and God says, "I have to bring you back. I have to regather you. I have to regroup you because you've gone somewhere." You know, many of you know my story. Some of you may not, but we were told that we would never have children. I was told I would never be able to conceive, that my clock wasn't working right, that I didn't have the right hormones. And we went on a journey. We went the long way round. And you know, we went the long way round. And on the long way round, I had to have cycles of fertility treatment. I had to go every day, I had to be injected in my butt with a big needle by my husband. That's not a good combination. Big needle and husband and butt should not go together. I looked like a baboon. I could barely sit down. It was painful. And every day we had the injections. Every second day we had to drive an hour away to a clinic for me to have an internal every second day. It was not glamorous. It was not fun. And on the long way round, would you believe it? Every single one of my friends got pregnant. On the long way round, God asked me to lay hands on barren people that didn't even profess to love God. I remember a couple coming as visitors to the church and asking for prayer. And I knew God had told me I had to pray for them. And someone explained they'd just come. They didn't know anything about God, but they wanted to come because she couldn't conceive. And everything inside me said, "God, I'm the one you love. I'm the Lazarus here. Hello. I'm the good girl. They don't even call you Lord." And I felt God say, "Pray for them." Well, wouldn't you know it? 2 months later, they show up. "We want to tell you the news. I'm pregnant." I'm like, yay for you. Hello, I'm human. Hello. Yay, I'm really pleased for you. You don't even love God and he gives you a baby. Hello, I'm here working all the hours that God gives me on the earth to make a difference and I can't even get pregnant. You know, we all struggle with those. But you know what? I have to learn now to look back and see that on my long way round was that moment for that couple. And on my long way round is what I'm teaching you now. And on my long way round was trusting God in a way I've never trusted God before. And on my long way round was an encounter with people in the hospital I would have never met had I not been in there for treatment. And on my long way round was an empathy that I developed for people who were in those shoes that I'd never got if I'd have been there. And on my long way round was God saying to me, "We'll get to that bit in a minute, but right now you're controlling. You're a control freak, Charlotte. Stop telling me when this is going to be or how it's going to be. I'm going to take that layer off you." And then on the days when the emotions, because of the injections, God was like, "And we're going to deal with this one too. We're going to do the emotional thing too, and we're going to deal with that too. We'll get there." I don't understand it. But on the long way round, I'm going to make it pay. And so on the long way around now, we have the Mary encounter. She's gone changed weeping positions. And he says that Mary came to where Jesus was waiting and fell at his feet saying, Master! She said it different to Mary. Mary was like, Master, if you'd come earlier, we could have been organized. We didn't need a funeral. Wasted money. This is bad timing. That's Martha. Let's just make the best of a bad situation. You don't need to get everybody whipped up around here that you're in town and get hopes up. This is not going to work. We know he'll be resurrected one day soon, but it won't be now. So, organize, Jesus. Stay in your box. Okay, so... But here's Mary. Here's Mary, Master, if only you'd been here, my brother would have died. Have you ever had one of those cries where you just actually can't speak? Like, oh, awful. Like you can't, you don't know whether to inhale or exhale. I reckon that's what she looked like. Anyway. Come on, people. Join me in the visual. Okay. So she's crying and she's wailing, Master, if you hadn't been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her sobbing, and the Jews with her sobbing, a deep anger welled up within him. And he said, where did you put him? Master, come see, they said. Now Jesus wept. I find that fascinating. I think the moment of anger was at the lack of faith and belief. And the people around her that were joining in with the lack of faith, and because he'd said, this will not be fatal. Yeah. I would be angry if I made you a promise and you didn't believe me and I was your friend. I would be like, why did you go and organize it like I wasn't going to come through for you? I said I'd pick you up. Maybe I was 5 minutes late because on the way I picked someone else up too. But I said I was going to pick you up. You didn't trust me. But then I love how Jesus' anger lasts a moment, and now he cries. He's like, all right, Mary, let's have a little cry together. Many times on my long way round, where God went, all right, girl, we'll have a little cry together, but it's a little one, mind. God will allow you those tears. He just wants you to be aware that the tears should not overtake the faith. And so Jesus wept. And the Jews said, oh, look how deeply he loved him. Jesus was unwrapping something in his relationship with Mary. And now the others among them said, well, if he loved him so much, why didn't he do something to keep him from dying? After all, he can open the eyes of a blind man. I love that. I love that they're all queuing round with their opinion. And Jesus goes, well, before we go any further, I'm just going to shut you lot up. We're just going to stop right here and take another layer off this past the parcel. And all you critical people, all you doom, prophets of doom, all you want to say, well, I don't know why you even bother believing in him. I don't think he's even going to come through for you. All you that have gathered here for your moment of glory to say this is over, it's done, God's not, we're just going to stop a minute. I'm going to take a layer off your critical spirit. I'm going to take a layer off your unbelieving eyes, because I said this would be an occasion. And an occasion would not be an occasion without a little gathering. Especially a gathering of critical people. Love that. Took that one away. He has them all there. He says, now Jesus' anger welled up again within him. He arrived at the tomb. It was a simple cave in the hillside with a slab of stone laid against it. And Jesus said, remove the stone. Check it out. She can't give it up. The sister of the dead man, Martha, said, Master, by this time there's going to be an awful stench in there. I mean, he's been dead 4 days. Whoa, wait a minute. You just said you believe him. Now you're worried about the smell. I mean, don't you love Martha? She's like, I need to light some candles, aromatherapy. Like, we need an air freshener before you do this, Jesus. Let me help you. Jesus is like, honestly, we must so make heaven laugh. Jesus, not right now, not until I've had my hair done. Oh, yeah, in a moment, Lord. Like, no, Jesus, don't you understand? There's going to be a horrible smell. Listen to this. Jesus looked her in the eye. And over this conference, Jesus is looking you in the eye. He said, girl, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Then he turned to the others. He He said, go ahead, make my day. Take the stone away, boys. They removed the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes to heaven, and he prayed, Father, I'm grateful that you've listened to me. I know that you always do listen. Check this out. But on account of this crowd standing here, I've spoken so that they might believe that you sent me. And then he shouted, Lazarus, come out. And he came out, wrapped from head to toe, with a kerchief over his face. Check out this line. And Jesus told them, go ahead, unwrap him now. Same resurrection power that they got instantly. Go ahead, you can unwrap him now. You can take the lid off this stone now. The other one you got to do instantly. This one you've waited a while for. But go ahead, now you can get what you think you've been waiting for all along. But whoa, wait a minute. I said this would be an occasion. See, you didn't just get to open your box. What else is in here? I seem to think that I have found that God gave me double for my trouble. By going the long way round, I didn't just get my brother back. People got educated. Lives got transformed. My believing went to another level. My critics shut their mouth. God made an occasion out of this. And God is saying, could you trust me enough? Martha, in the middle of your long way round, will you stop tidying me up and taking control? Mary, in the middle of your long way round, will you stop crying yourself into such a stupor that you cannot see that I'm the God that said this is not fatal? Unbelieving, critical person, in the middle of me coming to you, can you not understand that this is so that you see the power of God that works through me? See, God is looking for those that see their long way round how he sees it, and sees that when he says, I will come, but it won't be when you think it should be. See, when God says yes, it doesn't mean now. Sometimes yes means long way round yes. But if we will be a people who every time we have to take the long way round, use the long way round to get double for our trouble, I'm telling you, how many more lives could be blessed? How many more lives could be blessed?
Thank you so much for listening to this message. We are always encouraged to hear how this message has impacted your life. Please visit our website, www.lifechurchhome.com. Or why not email us at hello@lifechurchhome.com.